Good morning. This is John, your host on Mgtow is Freedom. Mgtow is men going their own way. Men going their own way, not women also equally going their own way, but men leaving women, leaving relationships, leaving this idea behind that you have to have a woman. I woke up this morning, got a little bit of a late start because we have a late start today, so I get to sleep in. Anyways, allowed me a little bit of free time just to lay in bed and think about the oldest profession and some funny things that happened last night. Right? What is the oldest profession? Prostitution. Good old-fashioned prostitution. Women have the auspicious designation as being the first people to be employed. Isn't that amazing? Amazing. Right? But back then, what did men do? Right? Men hunted, men fished, men fished, and they didn't trade it. They weren't engaged in commerce. They just took care of themselves. Women, on the other hand, wanted what men had, and they did work for someone else. They were employed. Right? That's why it became a profession. Hunting wasn't a profession. Fishing, fighting tigers, even other men, that's not a profession. The first profession, prostitution. The oldest profession. What does that tell us about them? Right? They realized day one, right, that they can sell that. They have to trade what they have for someone else because they can't get it for themselves. They can't get it for themselves. From that time, all the way through till now, women have always looked to men to give them what they want, to trade them what they have for what they want. Now here's the interesting thing. If I have a fish and I trade that fish, right, I get something back in return. Let's say a bundle of sticks for a fire. I no longer have the fish. If I have a pointy stick and I want to trade that for some flint as a caveman, right, I no longer have that flint or stick. Whatever it is I'm trading, it's gone. Interestingly, women keep what they trade. They keep what they trade when they engage in their form of commerce. It's quite interesting. They never lose. Right? They get older, they get used, but they don't lose their item that they trade. Right? The magical vagina. Right? They keep it. They keep it close. What kind of brought this back to mind is last night, my son and I wanted to go down and get a dinner at this kind of wild and crazy place. And the street was totally crowded. This is the main strip. People everywhere. Men, women, children, left, right. Sidewalks are just crowded. In some places, people having to step off into the street. It was one of those kind of nights. And down the sidewalk, this is after I negotiated for a table. I said, hey, I want a table upstairs, window view. Do it now. And they said, okay, it'll be just a couple of minutes, Mr. John. And so I was standing there on the sidewalk with the host because there was a line extended out onto the sidewalk. Pretty popular establishment. And I noticed a woman running down the sidewalk. And she was about 40. You could tell she was really good looking. She's in jogging clothes. Slender, brand new fake titties. Brand new. You can just tell, right? But why would a woman be running down the street? A crowded street in the middle of Touristville, right? At dinner time, brandishing a set of brand new fakies, right? They were like, she was 115, 120 pounds, 5'4", 5 or 6. Then I would put her at, I already said she was 40-ish. They were about the size of, we'll just call them softballs. And she started messing with them. She was making sure they're all packed in, you know. And then she looks at me and gives me a really big grin. Right? So I look at her, I go, yeah, nice. You know, I gave her a big grin back. Those are just perfect. Right? And she smiled and she's like, hey, and she ran off. Well, my son looked at me, he starts laughing. The kid from the store, the young man, you know, he was Filipino. It was weird. He had his name on his badge and what country he was from. It was kind of odd. Each of the employees there had either something about them, something interesting about them. Okay, that was an aside. So this woman, I go to the guy. I go, did you see that? And he goes, oh yeah, he saw that, right? And I was like, okay, he did see it. All right, how could you miss it? The woman was revaluing herself by getting those fake breasts. She was revaluing herself. She invested $5,000. I don't know what they cost. I think $5,000 in her boobs in order to increase her sexual market value. And she was probably going for a run as doing what we call one of the tests. You know, she wanted to test and see how many men turned their heads, what age turned their heads, right? If other women noticed. I'm sure she was testing it all. And I didn't see if she had a ring. That was not important. Probably didn't. What was important, what is important, is that women are still engaged in the oldest profession. There's a lot of women that have to work regular jobs. I know millions and millions of them. They have to, because prostitution's illegal. Prostitution is illegal. They kind of screwed themselves over, so they force men into relationships with them. But it's still the same game. You see, a lot of men think that they're not trying to win a prostitute. Right? You're told, don't ever marry a prostitute. They'll never love you because they're just in it for the money. Right? They know the value of sex and they'll use it to get what they want. And they'll never ever care about you. It's still true, even with women who aren't designated as prostitutes, and prostitution is illegal in most areas, most venues, most jurisdictions. These women are prostitutes nonetheless. It is the oldest profession. They want your money. They don't know how to work, right, and develop and build a living, right? For some reason, they still can't get it. The very first woman decided to be a prostitute, sell herself, trade a part of herself, but always keep it. These women, you think they love you, but they hold that piece back and they'll take it with them. They never really give. They always keep themselves. Unlike you, who trade, literally, money, time, you know, things of value. You trade them for these women. And they never give to you. Right? The only way for them to give would be to declare themselves your slave, and that's illegal. That's non-binding. So even that, you know, is another argument they make that is specious, right? It's a lie, right? It's a scandal against men. Any attempt they make to say, I want to be with you, it's a complete and total fabrication, and it's the tool of the trade. Right? It's one of the cornerstones of being a prostitute is lying to you. So why do they do this is a good question. It's because they can't do it on their own any other way. It's a rare woman that can make a very, very good living and not need to use men. not need to use men. Right? They can, like I said, they can go out and get jobs, but they're not going to get ahead. They look around and they see that men have. She's got a crappy car, he's got a nice car. She's got an apartment, he's got a house. Mgtow are confusing because they go, why is that guy who makes all that money living that way? Well, he's minimalizing. And then they want to know, they want to understand, they want to learn that too. Maybe that'll help them. But they can never quite get it right. So they look to men, they get in bed with men, they use men, and they take themselves and everything that you've invested away from you. It's a lesson that is hard learned, but I think all men need to learn it and then apply it. And for some reason, women can't do that. They can't apply. They can't change. If they could, by now they would.